Blackstone Publishing presents The Wrong Murder, a John J. Malone mystery by Craig Rice. This book is read by Johnny Heller. Chapter 1. Later, they were able to trace the little man in the rusty black overcoat as far south as Van Buren Street. At an indeterminate point somewhere south of the corner of State and Van Buren, the trail was lost. Not that it mattered greatly, after the man was dead. His first appearance on State Street that could be proved beyond the shadow of a doubt was at the northwest corner of Van Buren, just below the steps leading to the elevated. He had paused there briefly to buy a newspaper. The newsstand boy remembered him clearly, especially the manner in which he had fished the depths of a worn leather change purse for the odd penny. When they found the little man later in the day, the newspaper was still tucked under his arm, unread, just as the boy had folded it. No one would have expected him to be noticed anywhere, especially not on State Street in the last week before Christmas. He was a trifle under the average height, stoop-shouldered and exceedingly thin. His skin, drawn tight over the bones of his sharp-featured face, had an unhealthy pallor. His eyes were so light a blue as to be almost colorless, protuberant and peering as the eyes of a fish. A few wisps of untidy gray hair showed under his dusty black derby. On the whole, he was an ordinary, inconspicuous little man. So it was amazing later, though not to Dan Von Flanagan of the Homicide Squad, how many people remembered seeing him on his progress up State Street, after a photograph of his remains had appeared on the front page of the Times. It seemed almost as though everyone who had been on State Street that afternoon, in the peak of the Christmas shopping rush, had seen and noticed the little man in the rusty black overcoat. Nevertheless, it was from just such volunteered information that it was possible, later, to find out where the little man had gone and what he had done between Van Buren Street and the corner where his stroll had ended abruptly. It appeared that he had not been in a hurry. The newsstand boy was positive that it had been exactly 5 minutes to 2 when the man stopped to buy a paper. He remembered it because his next customer had been a girl in a red hat who had asked him the time, and his watch, a present from his grandfather, was never wrong. There was no possible doubt that it was just 15 minutes past 2 by the big clock over State and Madison Streets when the little man reached that corner. 100 witnesses were ready to swear to it. The distance between those 2 points was only 4 longish blocks, so his progress had been slow. Just north of Van Buren Street, he had paused before the Rialto Burlesque Theater to examine the colored posters that adorned its facade. Still farther in the same block, he had paused again before a window filled with inexpensive garments that could be purchased on convenient credit terms. At the corner of Jackson Boulevard, he had barely escaped.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?